My name is Kongjian. I'm a professor at Peking University. And also I'm the founder of Tourandscape. It is my great honor to share with you my vision of Sponge City and Sponge Planet. A solution, a land-based, water-driven solution to climate change. So climate is changing, which means flood, drought, fire, habitat loss, and sea level rising. Look at here, about 50% of Southeast Asian cities will be suffering the problem of sea level rising. Now, where is the solution? Mitigation? Yes, which means cut carbon emission. That's what we are focusing on. Windmill, solar panels, and hydropowers, so-called green energy. But when you look more carefully, so-called green may not necessarily be sustainable. What about adaptation? Yes, but the current adaptation solutions usually means stronger and powerful concrete walls, dams, pipe system, and aqueduct, and so on. So this is what we call gray infrastructure made of concrete, steels. But when you look carefully, this kind of gray infrastructure are continue to fail and failing, or had failed already. They failed in China, they failed in Brazil, they failed in India, and they failed everywhere. Meanwhile, they produce more and more carbon emissions. Concrete alone produce about 8% of carbon emission. So the gray infrastructure is not sustainable. Why is it fail? Look at this precipitation pattern. When the gray infrastructure was invented in European countries, you will see the precipitation pattern is quite mild. Every month or each month of the year, they have the same level of precipitation. That's why all the drainage system can be designed, can be controlled precisely and made of concrete. That's why non-resilient at all. But when they are copied to the underdeveloped regions, particularly in Southeast Asia, like China, you can see our precipitation pattern is totally different. We have called a monsoon climate. Flood season, we have dry season, right? And global-wise today, when climate change, the whole world become monsoon-like. Now that's why all great infrastructure had failed or will fail, but particularly in the Southeast Asian nations. Meanwhile, when we talk about sea level rising, we all think about the ice cap melting, the seawater thermal expansion. But we usually forget that about 40% of sea level rising is caused by the mismanagement of the groundwater. It is the dry out of the groundwater that causes 40% of sea level rising. So take care of the land itself, making wise use of the water on the land can be a more effective solution. So that's why we're looking for nature-based solutions. A nature-based solution can be everywhere. Planting a tree, protecting wetland, protecting a forest. But where is the key for action? Which means minimum investment of energy and money to create maximum effect to solve the problem holistically. Now, this holistic solution is what I call sponge city and sponge planet. It is a land-based, water-driven ecological solution. 3 principles: retain water at the source, slow down water flow, and embrace water at the sink. So you will think about the drainage system, the natural drainage system, sponge catchment, sponge waterway, sponge farm, sponge town, and sponge lake and the ocean. Now, this was inspired by the Southeast Asian way, or the monsoon way, which is totally different from the European way, where the great infrastructure or early urbanization happened. The right is a European pasture, you can see, a landscape developed under the mild climate. Well, at your left, you will see the Indonesian paddies, which is an adaptation to changing climate or the monsoon climate. Use very simple tool. This monsoon way is to use very simple tool to catch stormwater on the slope, to plant rice paddies, and to create a pond and dike system, to cultivate fish and make sustainable living on dike. Simple tool solves multiple problems. So by scientificize this monsoon culture, I was able to develop a series of models to solve the problem of urban flood and drought and habitat loss, and create habitat, beautiful, resilient space for the people, for the city. So solve the problem holistically. The first case and the first principle is to retain water at the source. Here is the Sanya city before the project in 2015. So right in the middle of the city, we use a very simple sponge technique. Terracing, ponding, islanding create sponge green space, about 100 hectares, right in the middle of the city to solve the problem of flood and drought. You can see during the dry season, during the wet season, and polluted area transformed into beautiful, resilient green sponge that not only solves the problem of water, heal the polluted landscape, but also catalyst the urban development and increase the property value dramatically. That's today you can see it is now becomes an urban center and a CBD for Sanya. Similarly, at the center of Bangkok, we transform this gray pavement, the concrete pavement, into a green sponge by very simple technology, cut and fill, to retain water, to clean water, and restore the habitat for biodiversity, and a beautiful public space for the people. and certainly increase the property value surrounding the area. That's today. We only need 1 year, actually, from design to build, 18 months, the project got built. The second principle, slow down the water flow, removes concrete, transform it into vegetated terraces so that the destructive force of nature can be reduced. It transforms gray into green, hard to soft, straight to meandering. This is a high coal in Hainan Island, suffering monsoon flood every year and polluted. Conventional solution, build higher and higher flood wall, pave the riverbank and the ground, and keep dredging the river, try to keep it clean. Never solves the problem. So our solution, our sponge solution, is to remove the concrete, totally removes concrete, terracing the riverbank, turns the riverbank into a sponge system to catch the urban storm water runoff, to clean the polluted water, and transforms this gray drainage into a sponge green infrastructure so that people will have beautiful habitat, a beautiful park to live with nature. At the end, when the water accumulated as a lake or in the ocean, it is certainly too late to build a wall like this one. That's also in Sanya City, in Hainan Island. The local government tried to build the wall to fight against the sea level rising, the surge, basically. Now, what's the problem? It never solves the problem, right? Look like what used to be here. Keep building the wall. So our solution is, instead of fighting against the sea level rising or sea level surge, the sea wave, we remove the concrete wall and let the water come in. Now, why let the water come in? Because it is not the sea level rising, the height of sea level. It is the surge, the wave that causes the problem. So instead of building the boxing wall against nature water, we play Tai Chi with water, soften the force of nature to create habitat for mangrove, to use nature to reduce the destructive force of nature. And it just takes 1 year to build. And this is 3 years later, you will see a more resilient coastal line has been built. And the birds come back and become beautiful public space for the people. So this is the whole idea about sponge city and sponge planet. It is a holistic, land-based, water-driven solution to global climate emergency. Now we have to act together. Together, we can fix the globe. I'm confident. The youth is the hope for the future. So I'm so glad the young people come together to fight against the challenges we are all facing today. Thank you.